Good evening, everyone. I'm Dilini Anuradha, the moderator for today's session. It's an honor to have the opportunity to address you all in this evening. Today, we are here to listen and learn about system change in professional life. Before starting the program, I would like to warmly welcome our guest speaker, Mr. Rathnapriya Wickramasinghe, Deputy Director, ICT at the Department of Census and Statistics. System change is generally understood to require adjustments or transformation in our lives. The finest available evidence and critical thinking are the foundation of an evidence-based approach to decision making. Decision makers become less dependent on unreliable sources such as conventional wisdom and personal experience. So today, we mostly focus on system change in professional life by being converted to evidence-based decision makers. I think this session gives you more value in your life. I would like to invite Mr. Rathnapriya Wickramasinghe to continue this session. Sir, it's over to you.
Thank you, Dilini. Good evening to all. Today, I am going to talk a little bit about the responsibility of being a professional and how you make decisions based on data. So I'm going to share my screen because I am going to speak on a presentation made specially for you. Yes. So you already know who I am. I was also an IM graduate in your university, some in late 80s. And I've done postgraduate diploma in social statistics from Japura University and master's in IT from Kiel University. Currently, I'm the Deputy Director ICT, the Department of Census and Statistics, which is the National Statistics Office of Sri Lanka. So today, my summary of my today's 2-hour speak is being a professional, what is data, uses of data, quality data, data science, systems development, useful skills, services of the DCS. So I try to introduce these things as much as possible, as I was informed that most of you are undergraduates. So I think this will fit to your enthusiasm. What does being a professional means? I took this straight away from Google to find several thousands of like this. Being a professional is not only being a knowledgeful person, he has to set his own standards about what he does, what he speaks, and his actions. I added this term ethical. It should be ethical, and professional ethics. If you forget the professional ethics, just remind the word PAPA. Privacy, accuracy, property, and access. Professional never harm privacy and property of others. Of course, never take the competitive advantage of blocking access, data, or system to others. And of course, he is accountable and transparent to his work. This output is always, we think it is correct and consistent. A successful professional knows and where to capture quality data, how to manage data management is adding, editing, summarizing, and visualizing those data. So understand basic statistics. This means nowadays statistics is called data science, as it has got theories. You can call it a science. Makes decision of statistics and analytics, evaluates the results, what we call impact analysis. Consider also real-world changes, adjust the data with seasonal and spatial indices. That means you cannot simply tell what numbers is. You have to compare it with real-world scenarios. For example, there is no point in comparing sales of firecrackers in December and February, because there is a seasonal effect in these values. Or sometimes there are spatial effects attributed to data, such as the price of pumpkin is much less than in Hambantota district is much less than that is in Colombo district. So you have to adjust your data and the findings according to this adjustment. To adjust this seasonally, seasonal adjustments should be made based on seasonal indices. To calculate seasonal indices, you need knowledge about time series analysis. For calculate a spatial index, you need to know about how to calculate indices, price indices. So let's move to some theories. I have to produce some theories, related theories here, because the technology without theory is blind, and theory without technology is barren. Sinhalen අපි කියනවා තාක්ෂණයෙන් තොර න්‍යාය වඳයි, න්‍යායෙන් තොර තාක්ෂණය අන්ධයි කියලා. The technology is always contributing to theory, to develop the theory into further higher levels. Also, on the other hand, technology cannot be started without a theory. So, the classical definition for the term data is observation. This is the first early days of statistics. It was called observations. That is what you see, what you feel, and what you hear, etc., etc. In electronic age, nowadays the data is observations captured into an electronic medium. This is capturing data into electronic medium is an expensive process. So that you must be careful when you going to calculate, convert or capture data into your systems. You have to be very much selective in capturing data. Why this data is this much important? The data and contents produces information that may be true or false. When the information added with experience, it produces knowledge. When a value is added to the knowledge, it takes the states of wisdom. So good professionals or good entrepreneurs always are wisdom driven. So they add value to existing knowledge, or they produce knowledge, information to provide something better for all. So let's look at the data type. Actually, this is a little bit complicated. There are different definitions, but mainly the main two data types are abstract and concrete. Concrete is what you can see and touch and hear, but the abstract data types are mental things like love, loyalty, or things like that. These things, these abstract data is difficult to measure. You cannot simply ask, as you ask, what is your age? You cannot simply ask, do you loyal to this company, or do you like to stay attached to this company or something? You have to ask several different questions, 5-6 questions to make this decision. In Likert scale, you know the Likert scale, what is the Likert scale is. So in Likert scale, you are given 5 or 7 options to answer one. The answers may be strongly agree, average, disagree, or strongly disagree, like that questions. By aggregating those questions, you can decide whether the person is mentally supporting the state, the variable state you are asking. So most of the these data falling into these categories: qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative data is text-based unstructured data. Quantitative data is normally numerical. Your age, income, etc. are falling into the quantitative type. The abstract data type can also be quantitative, because you convert these abstract types also into percentages or numbers. Categorical data is actually the variables like age, variable like sex and relationship, etc. These can also be converted to quantitative using dummy variables. Dummy variables means in sex, you can have 2 variables, male and female. The male will get 1 for male, 0 for female. So that is called dummy variable. And the numerical data is normally, the age, income, and etc. Populations. Then you come to population. Population is the area, the entire area that you are going to cover in your study, in the statistical exercise. There you get parameters, statistics, parameters, statistics, and estimations. Population parameters are generally not known, because nobody is going to calculate these things using total enumeration. So we have to produce statistics using statistical techniques. Statistics are normally called estimations produced in statistical ways. Surveys, you have to go for surveys to collect data. So surveys are two types: census surveys and sample surveys. Census surveys enumerate the entire population, whereas the sample surveys enumerates a representative sample of the population to inference about the population parameters. These are called statistics. So sampling is a theory. It's a it's a large area, sampling. So, but if you want to be a good professional, you should know at least some extent of sampling, weighting, and precision of how to calculate the precision of the estimates. Just I took this example from Business Statistics of Mr. J.S. Chandan, Prof. Jagit Singh, and K.K. Khanna. It's a good book. I suggest you all to read this book. This will give you good knowledge about the statistics that you need. Maybe up to get you a PhD. So just take a simple population with 5 elements: 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So when you take frequency distribution of this population, your frequency distribution is like this. It's flat because each element occurs once. Population size is capital, normally given by capital N. It is 5. Population mean is arithmetic mean. The population parameters are given in Greek letters. So it is total X divided by number of observations. So it gives population mean, simple average, as 6. Let's take all the possible samples of size 2 from this small population. Sample mean, sample average is normally denoted by X bar. Number of all the possible samples of size set from all the any population can be calculated using NCN. So using this, you get 10. So when we list all the samples, all the possible samples of this population is this. So when you calculate the means of all the possible samples, comes as 3, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9. When the total of all this means, sum of all these means divided by the number of samples, you get again 6. That means equal to population mean. So this is called the grand mean. So not only that, I want to emphasize this. This, when you look at the frequency distribution of this sample, all the means of all the samples, your distribution changes into a shape like this. That means it is approaching the normal distribution. So this prompts us to the most important theorem in statistics. It's called central limit theorem, which says when the sample size increases beyond 30, the sample distribution approaches normal distribution. So normal distribution is like the god in data science. Actually, nothing is distributed except sampling distributed in normal distribution. So using this normal distribution, you can predict, estimate your reliability and many things. As you know, you are already using this. In our days, we use this fact for statistical quality control, decision theory, etc., to calculate totals, averages, and proportions. So I took some time to explain this one because I have noticed many of the professionals who joins as a statistician also has no clear idea about this one. So there are other slides related to this one, but I am not going to talk about this. You just go on reading this book, or if you want to learn further, just read Cochrane sampling techniques, so that you can become a sampling expert and not a statistician. So it is very much necessary to become a real professional, because sampling is the samples are always our data sets are samples, and you have to make decisions based on these samples. So to make the decisions on these samples and how reliable these are, you have to use this normal distribution. And you should have a clear idea about the relationship between the samples and the population to predict or estimate about the population. Let's look at the quality. Quality is also important. In quality, conformance to requirements meeting customer requirements. So the quality is the minimum standard. Quality can and must be managed. It must be a continuous way of life. Proper systems are required to manage the quality. There is always room for the system development. So these things I took from one of the TQM presentation, Total Quality Management presentation. This is also very much related to this presentation, that also based on quality, always based on data. Data quality is measured by correctness, consistency, effectiveness, and efficiency of the data. Correctness is, you already know, it should be correct in all the aspects, in range, in identification, and it should be also consistent. It is being correct within that variable is not enough. It should be consistent with other variables as well. So for example, somebody says that he's 18 years old and he has this postgraduate degree. That cannot be as his educational qualification. This cannot be true. So on the other hand, results you extracted from this data should match with the previous seasonal or previous data, previously collected information. And seasonally, which it is called temporarily and spatially. So the consistency is important and it has to be corrected. If there is consistency errors, it has to be corrected. Effectiveness, has this data got any use? Can it be used for any solving of any problem or everything, including the timeliness and the content of the data comes under effectiveness. Efficiency, has this data stored in a provide information in timely manner. So efficiency is also very important. If you take hours or days to produce a simple analytic, your data is said to be not efficient. So storing the data in an efficient manner is necessary for the data to be quality data. So how to eliminate data errors? You have to write editing specifications carefully. This is also very important. I have not noticed many ignore these fields and ended up with data sets and results embarrassing to all. So you have to write rules, editing rules in a list, and every point has to be checked with this one. And no data point should pass without checking it for these conditions, the aforesaid conditions: consistency, range, structural, and structural range, consistency errors has to be eliminated using these rules. Useful data management skills must be proficient in using a statistical tool. Design a path to meet the objectives. Before you start your study, you have to design a path to meet the objectives. Data capturing, of course, you know how to capture data. Data labeling adds value to data. We call it data dictionary or metadata. Sorting according to variable values. Filtering or selecting variables and cases. Generating variables. You have to generate new variables according to your calculations. Recoding and replacing. You have to recode your data to get the correct analytic, the needed correct analytic. Merging data sets. You have to merge data sets between two institutions or two characteristics like demographic plus housing. Group operations, you have to give commands sometimes to generate statistics in different groups at once. Reshaping data sets, you have to turn the data matrix, turn around the data set. Your tool should support these things and you should know how to do this also. Tabulation of point estimates. I told point estimates called mean, arithmetic mean, or the average, total, and proportions, you have to tabulate visualization of data, information, and analytics. So this can be, there are different tools, specially made tools for this one. Let's discuss this later. Regression analysis. I told the regression analysis is also necessary if you are going to find relationship between two data sets, or of course the reasons for a certain result. That means if you are going to model, you should have some knowledge about regression analysis. In addition to that, reliability point estimations. So you have to use Fisher's distribution instead of normal distributions and NO. Systems development. Let's go to systems development, because this is the most important thing in your life. The development of system is always should be a priority in any, even in your personal life. Successful professionals also dream about better systems or improving the existing system even in their personal life. Find defects, write new system stories, and vote them for the other to comment. They have to change the existing systems. Always change comes with pain. You find a lot of resistance when somebody is going to change the existing system, as the subordinates or as used to the existing system for a long time, maybe, and they don't want to change. You have to manage both the change and the pain of the change. A system is a collection of components organized together to provide coherent whole and accomplish some purpose. Not just computers and programs. Hardware, software. Software is not programs. Always. It can be your memory and knowledge and live human. Digitalization is not necessary because it is costly. Do it wherever economic. You have to think seriously whether you are going to digitalize this system or not. Verification, validation, procedures, and specifications. This is necessary when you develop a system. This is called V and V rule. So you have to verify the procedures and validate the specifications. Procedures, that means what is existing procedure, you have to always verify. And what you are going to do, you have to validate what you are going to do. This is called V and V rule. So in good systems provides checklists, logbooks, and control sheets for monitoring, auditing, and supervision purposes. Of course, you have noticed most of the electronic systems provide these facilities for you to monitor or supervise. So systems development life cycle, this is not exactly the same as system development life cycle, in software development life cycle, but it should be like this. So it should be a continuous way of life. Plan, do, check, act. Again, plan, do, check, act. So this has to continue, as the change is the only thing that doesn't change. So system development and statistical skills in demand in the industry. Of course, Microsoft Excel, Access. If you know, Access is much better, because I am not suggesting you to become software developers or statisticians. This is common for any profession. You should have these skills. So the SPSS or Starter, these are statistical tools, popular statistical tools in Sri Lanka. The SPSS is good for for your social statistics, statistical analysis, where you mostly deal with that abstract data. But for economical analysis, the SPSS is not very good fitting. Starter or something like that, or there are open source software. This is compared to SPSS, Starter is less expensive. SPS is still expensive, but you can use, of course, open source tools like R for your data analysis. And HTML, of course, sometimes you have to show your analytics text in online. So you have to use these simple techniques. JavaScript. So if there are a lot of JavaScript libraries like Leaflet, Chart, JS. These are very useful in producing good analytics, dashboards in your surrounding organization or even in your academic life. For style sheets, you have to use with HTML to produce effective or dynamic web pages. The other important thing is, maybe you will have to outsource your software or system. Then you should know how to prepare your entity relationships diagrams. This is also a very useful tool. A diagram can say thousands of words. Of course, a system statement has to be written, but you should understand at least the basic tool of ERA modeling, the ER diagram, and EFD both are almost same. But these things are necessary for you to deal with the software developers. Otherwise, you may get not what you want at the end of the day as the product, as the software product you need. So a little bit about data management in DCS. As most of you are undergraduates, we have a lot of data giving free for academic students. So our basic duty here is to collect data, store data, development website to provide macro data services, macro data is summarized, tabulation, etc. Micro data dissemination. So micro data we disseminate, of course, for the other commercial and foreign institutes has to pay us, but for you, we release data if you provide a letter from your university or institution. So we develop systems related to this subject, data subject, mainly online survey. We call it CASI, computer aided self-interviewing, CAVI, web interviewing, CAPI, computer aided personal interviewing. This is using a mobile to collect data in field area. On-the-job data capturing also we use. This is actually related to mostly the big data. In national statistical officers, big data is not used. So we don't have a first-hand experience about using big data, but big data is generally generated by on-the-job servers like telephone caller links or satellite images like that. Still, I've not seen any national statistical office is using big data for their production of national statistics. But it is hugely used by a commercial institution for business intelligence and for many other things like forecasting of harvest or weather, etc. Data services, actually, we have microdata, a lot of microdata, in which every record is at the respondent level. As we collected, it is there. But before you give, we anonymize it. We remove the names and their addresses and real IDs. Aggregated macro data is always available in our websites. The metadata. Metadata is also available that you can have a good idea about the data that you are before you going to call for a data set, get a data set. There you find the description of the survey, sampling details, code book, questionnaires used for the collection of the microdata. So we have a separate data, a website called nada.lk. So you can get the list of the data and their metadata. Uses of microdata. Actually, microdata you have to use to analyze or make the analytics you want. Actually, we have prepared our analytics and for national planning purposes and national policy formation process. So you can get this data and investigate your things using this data. Metadata is data about data made to fully understand the nature of the data, why, by whom, as I said. It's needed to better assess the data quality and make good use of it. To find suitable data set for your research by searching or browsing detailed metadata catalogs. Of course, in our nada.lk site, you get all these information. So that's all I have for the day. Thank you very much for the listening. I think we have about 10-15 minutes for the discussion.
That was a wonderful session. Now we are moving on to the Q&A session. If you would like to ask a question, please unmute yourself or use the chat box to raise your questions.
Sir, rather than learning statistic, can we be professional in
Yes.
thinking like out of the
So, in most of the fields, if you want to become a doctor or any other professions, always you have to go through your masters. In every master's program, you find a module in statistics. In MBA, or of course, if you are going to get your PhD, you have to study research methodology for a long time. Research methodology is nothing about data science. Then you have to study this regression and about these estimations, sampling errors, standard errors. Of course, I have prepared other 3-4 slides. I omitted these things, but I will share this presentation with you. From there, you can get some of the ways of. It is not difficult to learn these things. Just open your mind, and if you understand the relationship between this population and this sample, and if you can get a reliable estimates with confidence limits, you are ready to go. That's all. So you are a good professional, because if you collect data, even say you become a manager and you have to collect data on your sales, or maybe you have to calculate your market share, or maybe you have to evaluate your salespersons. You should collect data. But the problem, you cannot collect all the data. You have to take samples. Then from the samples, you have to produce reliable estimates. To produce reliable estimates, you need to know about this basic principle. This is very easy. I again suggest you to read the first 2 or 3 chapters of inferential statistics, not only descriptive statistics. Of course, descriptive statistics can help you almost 80% of any person, but if you go further in high forums, especially if you are going to make a thesis, research thesis, you must have this up to this regression level. You must have this knowledge. Otherwise, you cannot produce good conclusions from your data. Is that enough? Oh, can you suggest, give an example of a professional who is not having the because the professional, as I said in the first slide, he should be transparent and accountable to his work. Otherwise, you may be asked in other place, why did you take this decision? So there you have to show hard evidences to support your, maybe in the court, sometimes you have to provide hard evidences to protect yourselves in a disastrous situation. So it is Very good. Actually, I myself was in industry for about 15 years. Then I became a statistical officer. Then I became an IT professional. But still, I enjoy doing systems for statistical purposes. The two areas are merged, cannot be separated. So the theory and the technology is effectively used. If you use this effectively, of course, I am sure you can become a good professional, and it will make a big change in your professional life, not only to you, for your organization, and to the people around you.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, go ahead, please.
What is your perspective on the kinds of opportunities available in Sri Lanka for data science? Like, if a student wants to pursue a career in data science and be a professional in that aspect, and and also my second question is, what kinds of technologies are used in Sri Lanka? Because around the world there are new technologies being used, and it's a question that are Sri Lankans using those technologies, to keep up with the global standards? So what is your perspective on both of those questions, the opportunities and the technology wise?
Of course, I cannot correctly comment on the use of these technologies, but we have used these new technologies like in our pilot studies. Actually, in big data concept, big data, actually, as I said, we National Statistics Office, we don't use, but if you have paper qualification related to statistics plus the knowledge of using, actually, you don't have to worry about the calculation of these things. The statistical tools like Stata, etc., provide all these facilities. Just you have to interpret the results. These are calculated easily. So there is a very big demand. If you can provide dashboard kind of things using online tools, there is big demand in the industry. Now, of course, if you have a class pass in your degree, you can join the DCS or the central bank and many other organizations. They are hiring. They are taking as statistician, which is a executive position. So that's in other places, in mostly the commercial institutions, you have to combine the IT skills with statistics. Without knowing the use, how to use the statistical tools and the visualization tools, such as there are other commercial visualization tools. Of course, you yourself can make without any cost effective visualization. Of course, if you visit our websites, you can see many of those things you can use in your internally. And so it is, I'm sure it's a good investment if you invest on statistics along with some IT skills. It is always good. That means you have to use a statistical tool effectively. You should know basic coding. top-down coding. And it is a list of commands, right? It is not really sophisticated like, I don't ask you to become a software developer or a programmer or something. You have to connect your skills with the industry needs. So I think I have seen many times, even UN is hiring the statistical or data science. Here, the big data, I don't really know, but I have involved with some 2-3 projects to calculate for forecast crops, paddy estimate, paddy harvest, etc. But it was not that easy because it's very difficult to get big data because big data is produced by commercial enterprises, right? They are not ready to give their data because they are busy, and the other type of data like satellite images are very expensive. To my knowledge, there are only 3 companies who gets satellite images around the world, which can tell you many things about the world, the cultivation, meteorology, but this we cannot afford, and also there are no proper procedures. Of course, you can use ad hocly for your business purposes this data, these samples of big data. Is that enough?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
So when we consider about the current situation in Sri Lanka, so it is clear that for a professional, it is not that easy to achieve their goals. So in such a situation, how to overcome those limitations, and what are the strategies that we should follow in achieving our goals and implementing a system change?
Yes, I have to say that what is the reason behind this crisis? You just think, because there is no data around, right? Nobody knows. Did you know the amount of debt before March of this year that we have to pay? Now we know that we are to pay from $55 billion. Till then, nobody knew. Even I don't know whether even the finance minister knew about this, or maybe they be covering from the people, because there is no proper database on data ethics. And mostly the dollar crisis. Dollar crisis is mainly due to import-export data lags. So you know that this much of imports and exports took place, but there is no place to verify, right? Nobody knows whether we get the amount of dollars for our exports. We know that. Everybody knows that. The exporters who use our valuable resources provided in concessions for their production, export our products, and keep the money in foreign banks accounts. So this data is not tracked. Of course, there are loops in the rules, law books as well. So So that is the change. That is the real change. Just not just asking for a system change. You have to have a reliable, evidence-based decision making in private as well as public organizations. I know that there is no data to forecast how much rice will be there in 2 months or 3 months, because this data either not collected or not properly analyzed, or they are not skilled enough to analyze, collect. Of course, there is no use if your estimation takes 2-3 months or sometimes years to publish. You have to have this effectiveness and efficiency in your data. So in developed countries, it is not like that. They have many integrated data systems. It's not easy for a person to evade taxes. No informal businesses are allowed. No low-paid employees are allowed. So my advice for you it is of course tough, and sometimes it may be boring talking about statistics, but you have to be competitive. You have to be competitive while many puts brake, you have to put gas. That means you study. If you want to study everything, you just study one thing. That's all. Then that is the only way. Of course, the economy is shrinking due to high taxation and high interest rates. But I think it will become okay. Now people getting understand about these things. So you have to be honest with yourself. Everybody, you read books, read everything around, and be prepared to provide a good or good service to your company or become a successful entrepreneur if you can go work for at least 5-6 years with a good boss. And I strongly advise you to start your own business, at least at household level. But I am sure if you are, of course, you are selected few. You don't have to worry about the future. Just spend your day right. Is that a good advice?
Yes, yes, I agree with those ideas. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
It seems there are no more questions. Thank you, sir. Your insights have been wonderful, and I would like to thank you all for being a brilliant audience. So it's time to wind up the session. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Rathnapriya Wickramasinghe on behalf of the whole group of MITians. You are highly knowledgeable and experienced and can link this knowledge to a great presenting style. On behalf of everyone here today, we are grateful for presence of Professor Janaka Wijayanayake, Dr. Chapura Rajapaksha, Dr. Dilani Wickramasinghe, Dr. Shanta Jailal, and Dr. Tilini Mahanama. And we are very thankful for your continued guidance and support. Again, thank you so much, sir, for sharing your thoughts and ideas with us, and thank you all for your participation, sisters and brothers. So, good night all, and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. I am privileged to be in this audience. Of course, I will share this presentation with you all. You are free to share this with the audience. Thank you very much. Thanks again.
Okay, sir. Thank you.